Okay, so I'm in my 94 Mazda Miata, and this is a unique model year for the Miata because it was the first year for dual airbags, and for whatever reason in 95 they switched out the airbag module for a different one. So the Miata of 94 has a very unique airbag control module, which is located underneath the steering column. Now I've already disassembled my where the airbag module lives, and I've removed it. I'm actually shooting this video after the fact just to confirm my airbag warning code. So if you have one of these cars, actually pretty much any Miata over 20 years old, hell, even over 15, you're going to start having issues with the airbag control module. But fortunately, that module is usually repairable. Now for the 94, because it's a unique model year for these, the airbag modules are almost impossible to find. They really are very hard to find in working condition. So you kind of have to repair them, and that's what we're going to do in this video. So I'm going to turn my ignition switch on, and we're going to read the airbag code. Okay. The airbag light is on. Now after a few seconds it should go off and blink. There it goes. And then it's going to start throwing codes, which it's not doing yet. Well, rest assured it's bad. Normally it shows a code of 52, that's 52. It blinks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pause, 1, 2. And then it pauses for a little bit longer, and then it does it again. But for whatever reason, right now it's not doing it. But don't worry, it will. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the airbag module. It's temporarily connected over there. You can see it. And we're going to pull it back out. We're going to repair the problem with the control module, and well, we're going to put it back in and hope it works. Here we go. So I've already removed the module, but it's in a blue box that's shoved way the hell up in there. And when I go to put it back in again, I'm going to show you where it lives. And you don't have to drop the steering column to do the job. It's not necessary, totally unnecessary, in fact. So let's get it fixed. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to fix it. Now this only covers the 94 model year, but other model years will be similar. Similar problem, just different value capacitors, but basically the same problem, same solution. So let's talk about what causes this problem. So electronics generally require several components to function. You've got your capacitors, you've got, these are diodes, you've got resistors, microchips, all those great things combined create an electronic device, in this case an airbag control module. Some of these components over time degrade. That's just the way it is, that's the nature of the game. So let's talk for a moment about these 4 capacitors. Now, in this particular application, these 4 capacitors serve as kind of a backup battery. So a capacitor is almost like a rechargeable battery, only it stores a very high amount of electricity for a very short period of time. Capacitors fail in a very patternistic way. Over time, the electrolyte can leak out of the capacitor. The electrolyte is a corrosive substance that's almost like battery acid, if you will, but it isn't really an acid. I believe it's a base. But anyway, what can happen is it leaks out over time, and it can cause damage to the board and other surrounding components. As we'll later find out, that has in fact happened and is one of the reasons this module is not functioning. Capacitors have a very high failure rate the older they get, and we just need to swap these out, and this board should function again. But the backup battery is a key component if the power is abruptly cut from the vehicle during an accident. They'll store enough of a charge to launch the airbags into your face. Now, to repair this problem, you need a couple of things. You need capacitors. I bought mine on eBay, but you need to make sure you're buying automotive grade capacitors. that had the same temperature rating as what came out. These have 105 degrees Celsius, and they're of the same value. Now these 4 caps in the 94 module are 2200 microfarad 25 volt capacitors. These are very inexpensive parts. An airbag module rebuilt can cost you several $100s, but you can simply repair this thing for about $20 worth of capacitors. I'm kidding, I'm not even joking, they're really not that expensive to replace. So we're going to start by replacing all 4 of these. Important to note, capacitors do store a pretty powerful punch. And we're going to discharge them with a pair of needle nose pliers that are rubber handled. These can seriously ruin your day if you get hurt or get hit by them. So since I just had this thing plugged in and turned on, I'm going to go ahead and discharge them. There will be sparks, or there may be. See, if these were actually working, and they're not, but if they were, we would be seeing some pretty heavy-duty sparks coming off of these pliers. And now you know why there's a problem. They don't work. They charge instantly as soon as the ignition's turned on, and after that, a few important things to note. Yes, you should be using ESD or electrostatic discharge protective equipment and tools, but we don't have that here. This chip right here is probably the one thing, that and this one. This is the microprocessor, and I think this is the EEPROM chip, which contains the code or the software used to drive the system. This is the microprocessor. This is, you cannot replace these 2 parts. I just want to point that out. Everything on this board can be purchased online and replaced, except for these 2 chips. One of them contains software that's proprietary to the Ford Motor Company's airbag department or whatever. The other one is a Motorola processor that was custom made likely for this application. Your system down fuse, or the thermal fuse, is right here, and you can replace this. There's a forum post that documents where to find this and how to get it. Testing it is very easy. All you want to do, you'll find 4 points of contact on the bottom just below that component. 2 of those are for a heating device which blows the fuse if a fault is detected, and the other 2 serve another function. They are the fuse itself. Okay? You want to test the 2 outer points for continuity, then the 2 inner points. As long as they both tone out, your fuse is okay, and mine is fine. At least the last time I checked. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to start by putting some flux. Use solder flux on the desoldering points. I like to use flux because it really speeds up the desoldering process because it helps to distribute heat more evenly. Now I have a fan blowing on me, which I should not. I'll point that another way. Here we go. Okay, this may be a little overkill, but like I said, it does, from what I've experienced, just a little bit of flux on whatever you're soldering. It helps the solder wick take the solder up a little faster. So what am I using? Well, here it is. This is what I use, desoldering braid. You don't need any fancy tools, just a nice hot iron and some desoldering braid. We're going to desolder all 4 of these right now. Sometimes you have to kind of work the components off first, or as you're desoldering them. This may be one of those instances. I normally have a vacuum desoldering tool, but not at home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up one leg of the capacitor and then rock the capacitor side to side like that to break that bond. Do it to the other side. There we go. Again, real easy. Now, we're going to talk about polarity in a second. When you put the new ones on, the polarity does matter, and the boards should be marked pretty clearly. Usually they are. So here's one. Now, this one shows no evidence of leaking, but like I said, it's not really charging either. So on the bottom of the board, it looks pretty clean. I'm going to clean my holes up a little bit. Like the desoldering braid, we're going to go over the holes here. And while we have these out, we're going to check the board for any damage, because if one of them has leaked in the past, it may require some additional repair work on the board. Now, if you've got a 94 Miata, or really any car from this time period, especially one containing a Ford airbag module, it is entirely possible that you may have to do this repair preemptively so that this never happens to you. Okay, polarity is important. So there's a positive marking on the board right here, and that coincides with these other three caps, which are all in the same direction. And on a capacitor, the body of the capacitor is positive, the stripe is negative. So we're going to pop this new one in right there. Okay, then we're going to, now of course, when I ordered these, I made sure I bought the same size as what came out. I believe they're, look up the actual purchase and see what I bought, but they're easy to find. They're like, does it actually say on the, it doesn't say on the back what size they are, but if you measure them with a pair of calipers, you'll know what to buy. I'll probably put something in the description. I should have thought of that. I didn't even think to do that until now. I'm like, wait a minute, people are going to want to know what to buy and where to get them. Well, I got them on eBay. I was going to buy them from Mazda, but they wanted a lot more. They wanted me to buy them in a larger quantity than I was really willing to pay for. So all we're doing is we're taking the soldering iron tip, we're putting it against the solder braid, which is against the connection we're trying to remove here. Let's do this one. Well, there's a little bit. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to do a point-to-point test. Now that I have this cap removed, I can see that there is some corrosion to these tracers, which I don't really like. I'm going to clean this up with some rubbing alcohol. In fact, I'm going to take this cap out so I can get a better view of it. I wasn't really paying attention as I was filming, but there is some damage here. I may actually have to do a point-to-point repair of this, but let's get that fourth cap out, and then we're going to check it with a multimeter and see. That would be a problem. Okay. Now what we got to do is, you'll notice there's a little bit of corrosion here on this lead here and over here. I'm going to grab a multimeter and we're going to do a quick test to make sure that there is no open circuits. You can actually follow these a little bit. They're pretty easy to follow. But there is some corrosion there, and I don't like that. So let's see. From this diode, ooh, that doesn't look good. I think we have an open circuit. I'm going to have to clean this up a little better to get a good look at it. Okay, so here's the deal. Right here, where this cap was leaking, it ate right through this tracer here. So I have to repair that. That's an easy fix. I'll run a jumper from this point to this point over here. That's where it's supposed to go. And I can tell with a multimeter that you just follow it, follow the trail, and then test it for continuity. So we got one broken point there. It's a pretty serious one. You can see there's a little bit of damage, but there's enough surface area here that won't be a problem. But we're gonna have to test all of these. All right, so I imagine that most of you guys and gals are gonna have the same problem that I'm having here, where you have tracers that were eaten through by leaking electrolyte from one or more capacitors. The good thing is, this is a single layer board, or it's actually double-sided single layer. There's nothing in the middle. So these are very easy repairs to make. Now, when it comes to repairing tracers, they actually make a jumper wire that's used for board rework and other various repairs. And it's not expensive. I just don't happen to have any here at home. But I found an old computer mouse that had very thin wire, insulated wire, that will do the job just fine. So what I'm going to do, you don't need to strip back this stuff. You just solder it in position. So I've traced out where I need to go. This tracer goes from this point right here all the way over. I'm just going to double check my work. All the way to this transistor over here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to just run a straight line from A to B and be done with it. Alright. So I'm going to start by heating up this soldering point here on this side. Until I get a nice connection. The insulation on the wire is going to go away on its own. It's just going to dissolve and evaporate. So I'm going to actually add a little bit more solder to that point. There we go. Alright. Get it nice and hot. There we go. Now we're going to run that all the way to here. I'm going to clear all 4 caps. Now I did check, there are no other brakes. I would suspect of 1 or 2 more tracers, but they're good to go. I'm going to put one here, but I'm going to trim the end of it off. A pair of side cutters. There we go, we can throw the rest. I'm going to keep that as as more repairs are needed. And we're going to do a point-to-point test to see if we fixed our problem. Yep, problem solved. Yeah, that one will be fine. That'll be fine. Alright, let's get our new caps in there. Making sure to get the polarity correct. Okay, I'm going to splay the leads a little bit as we insert them. There's no telling, you know, if you got an old car like this, you know, the electronics, this is how these modern cars are going to go. But the good thing is, cars from the 90s, these electronics are fairly easy to repair with commonly sourced components. So there's really, you got that kind of going for you. You really do. So that's good. Okay, we're all in the right direction. Get some solder on those. Alright. I do want to check one thing though. I noticed that this one's missing part of its pad, but it doesn't offshoot anywhere in the bottom, so it connects on the top of the board, it looks like. Okay, that should be fine then. I mean, let's put it this way, if the diagnostics fail as soon as I power it up, I'll know instantly. So now I'm going to trim the leads off. Okay. Alright, so we got our leads trimmed off. Almost looks factory. You wouldn't even know. Unless you saw the video. You're like, hey, wait a minute. Well, I found some additional damage that was caused by 3 additional leaking caps over here that I had to make a lot of jumps to fix. So, yeah. There's a little bit of corrosion under all 3 of those suckers. So, this is not what I wanted to see, but we can fix it. Alright, here goes nothing. If this airbag blows in my face, tell my parents I love them. Okay, it should come on for a self-test and go out. If I start the engine, it stays out. Who wants to be my first victim? Let's test this sucker out. I get a passenger, hit a wall, see if it works. This is an encouraging sign. If there was a problem, it would have gone off by now. Light would have started blinking. Okay, so here we are under the dash of my '94 Miata, and what a nightmare! I got it in though. Yay! Oh, my back. Ow. This is something that I don't recommend anyone do. Oh. Yeah, it's like that. I think that was supposed to be bundled up with this harness, but anyway. Yeah. Oh, my back. I think I ruptured my spleen. Oh, my God. Yes, it is easier if you take the steering column out and remove the driver's seat, but I'm a very small person. If you're bigger than, I don't know, a hobbit, I don't recommend doing this. But what do I know? It's all bundled in. I think this is supposed to be bundled up. But anyway. Yeah. Oh, look, some Japanese writing or something. Oh, anyway, so the modules all were built. We should be good to go. If I ever get hit by a drunk driver or whatever. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys where it bolts in. So there are, you really can't see anything anymore because I put the harness back, but let's see. So there's a blue box. There's a nut right behind that bracket. And you can get to it with an extension, a long extension like this. 10mm bolt. And there's one you can actually see. But it's like on this side of the on the left side of the steering column. There's a relay bolted to it right there. See that B577? There is a nut just above that, right up in here, and you can see that little metal bracket. That's the one you got to get. All right. You get that 10mm nut out, and the whole thing will come out. I suggest disconnecting the wiring first and then pull it out. Alright, well now I can get my kick panel back in position. Okay, we got the kick panel back in. Looks nice. Give it one more test. Okay, diagnosing, and passed. Give it a few seconds. So far so good, no smoke. Other than that annoying ass buzzer. Which will go away as soon as I close the door. I think we're good.